you know.
What would be your top 5 Darkchild productions?
Ooh, I never been asked that question. Top 5.
If I told you had my mind, it's not if I get one, be the truth. Listen.
I had your big brother got
about it. Feel your eyes.
you hitting the
Hey, Rodney, how you doing?
I'm great. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Where are you in the studio or?
I'm in my studio at my home. Yes.
Okay.
See, I got the old DAT machine.
Is that the one that your dad loaned you $1,200 to get?
Old MPC. Now this is actually my other MPC is at my other studio. The one my dad loaned me $1,200 off his life insurance to get. I still have it actually.
My goodness, hearing your story. I saw your interview, did a Power Moves a year ago, and which was really powerful, especially the relationship you have with your dad and that sort of mentoring. So that's, I'm a therapist and I work with under 21s, and so just hearing inspiration and trying to give vision to the young ones, because it's things as we get each year, things get darker and darker, and so vision and inspiration, is something that they do need. And hearing that about your dad and how that's been implanted in you is really, really a powerful part of your testimony. So I was really privileged to hear that.
So powerful, man. So powerful that it has literally, man, it has inspired me to be that for my children,
Yeah.
My 4 children and really all those things that he embedded in me, like, having to take piano lessons. I started taking piano lessons when I was 5 years old, and my dad had like the house rule. He's like, you can't play the piano. You can't live in my house unless you play the piano. so like I had that same rule now. So all my kids play the piano.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to start from the beginning because, I'm based here in the UK. I went to college in the US, but we do have an international audience. People from Australia, Singapore, Japan, they all tune in. So I almost give a sense of, where were you born and raised, so that they can have a sort of a geography understanding of where our guests are. So if we start off, where were you sort of born and raised?
Yeah, I was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Okay.
Raised right on the outskirts of a small little town called Galloway Township. My dad's church was in Pleasantville. So it's kind of like those 3 between Atlantic City, Galloway, and Pleasantville is kind of where, I was all the time growing up.
And I think for some of us, we associate Atlantic City like the sort of East Coast Vegas. Is that something, are we mistaken? Is that something close to that?
It's definitely like its own little casino.
Okay.
Boardwalk, it's the bottom of the shore. Not wasn't any musical outlets.
Yeah.
When, coming up there wasn't, a lot of places to be discovered, or studios or record company, anything like that. We didn't have that at all. It was like only maybe like one small studio locally that people would go to.
Now, I guess growing up, because you mentioned about your dad, did he have his own church, or was he part of a church?
Yeah, he had his own church. He still has the same church.
Okay.
Still in New Jersey. And he's been preaching ever since I think he was probably about I don't know, maybe like 21 years old. He's been pastoring
Wow.
for he turned 79 this year. So
Wow.
almost his whole life. Yeah.
Was the vision for you growing up to sort of join the ministry, music directed, and also join the pastoring service, or what was growing up?
Absolutely not.
Oh, that wasn't a vision as a kid.
That was everybody else's vision for me.
Yeah.
Everybody in the church says you're gonna be a pastor one day. Like, but you never know. I mean, we still got a long life to live still. So you never know. My vision was really it was music from 10 years old. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I would listen, I would sneak. We weren't allowed to listen to secular music in my house growing up. I grew up listening to the Winans and the Clark Sisters and Commission and BB and CC and all amazing gospel artists. And so I would have to sneak to listen to R&B and hip hop. So a lot of times you would, catch me when I got to school with my friends. I'm listening to, Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock or Big Daddy Kane and Guy and all these different artists that would inspire, I guess, the hip hop swag for me. And so I would listen to those rhythms and those sounds. And because I played drums as well at church, I was playing those type of rhythms, those New Jack rhythms in church. So everybody locally, I wasn't like the best drummer, but everybody locally knew, like, if they would come to my church and if I'm on the drums, I'm playing with a total different type of style than anybody else in church.
Wow.
And I was, I remember being 10 years old. I remember being 10 years old and hearing, I believe it was, I was in the mall in Toledo, Ohio, visiting our family. I remember hearing Human Nature by Michael Jackson play through the mall. The Thriller album had just came out and it was playing the Thriller album all through the mall. And I was just like blown away by how it sounded. And I was just like, I want to make music like that. And I remember like sneaking, and my brother was 7 years older than me. So he had more access to things than I had access to. And I remember like he loved listening to like all the New Jack Swing stuff. And so I would sneak in his room when he wasn't home, and I would like go through his record collection and his CDs and different things. And I would listen to, like, let's say if I'm listening to Heavy D and the Boys, You Got Your Own Thing, I would listen to the maxi single version where it had like 6 different remixes. And Teddy would have like the Percapella, the version, and all these different maxi single versions. And I would listen to it, but while I was listening to it, I would go to the credits and I would read the credits, and I would literally learn who was doing everything on what. And then I would be able to go to the next record and I would see, well, hold on, he produced that, and he produced Keith Sweat, and then he produced this. Oh, and this, the engineer Franklin Grant and John Marie, and this person is the assistant Serban Gane and John Hayne. Like I would know all these names at like 11 years old. I was like a walk-in like credit person. Like on any record, I would just know the credits. And because I did that, it made me like really learn what a producer was. Right? Because I would be like, okay, the guy who must be where it says produced by Teddy Riley, but then it says the bass synth by Teddy Riley or keys by Teddy Riley. So he must be the one, the producer must be the one putting all the music together. That's what I would think in my mind, right? So I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the person that does that.
I'm a massive Teddy fan. I mean, my whole music was Teddy Riley. Didn't matter. If he did a remix that I bought the record and that might make it last forever. He did everything on that. That's probably one of my favorite stuff. And so as a New Jack fan, you became synonymous to us as somebody who had some connection with Teddy back in the day. So we've all been, I was talking to New Jack fans, we've all you've been on our radar for such a long time because, we followed Teddy, we knew Pharrell and all this stuff. So, but I mean, it's really fascinating that, you know, at that young age, that you'd follow the critics and see from that side. Did you just enjoy just creating music, or what was the fascination about how music just had take that sort of hold on you?
Yeah, I mean, I love all different genres, but you got to understand, like, to me, it was like, you know, to me as from 10 to like, I don't know, to high school, probably was like, those were the 5 years that really shaped me as a producer. And to me, New Jack Swing was like a genre. Like I looked at New Jack Swing as its own genre that Teddy created its own genre. And I was kind of obsessed with that genre, that style. Yeah. And so a lot of people don't know this, but all my music was all New Jack Swing. I started out as a kid doing nothing but New Jack Swing. I didn't have any other type of style. I didn't even, you know, I didn't care to do any other type of style. In fact, I probably didn't switch up my style until I was probably like 16 or 17. And when I kind of moved away from the whole Future thing, then it was just like, okay, I need to like develop my own type of sound. Still have his influence, of course. Yeah. Still the New Jack influences, but I need to start. I want to be kind of genreless. I want to be a producer you can call to do any artist in any style. But for like 6 years, I was like, you would have thought I was Teddy Jr.
But everyone was doing that, you know, from LA and Babyface, they had to change their stuff around. I would think Jam and Lewis.
Because Teddy was the master of it. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference is like LA and Babyface, I call them, they were great songwriters. Yeah. Like they could write really great songs over anything. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, like real musicians they had little subtle things of New Jack Swing, but they also lived more on the funk side of the whole Prince side of it as well. But Teddy was just in his in his realm, he just was separate to me from the rest. Yeah. Because number one, his swing was a little bit different from their swing. Yeah, theirs was more this, like LA and Babyfaces and Jimmy Jam was more, and Teddy was more like, it was like almost behind. It was pushing. And of course I'm cheating because I was around him at an early age. So I got a chance to see the master at work. And it taught me a lot about how to shift things and make things move a certain kind of way. Yeah.
I mean, what did you make of the Winans It's Time?
That's what I was about to get to. So like, I grew up on the Winans before its time. Yeah. So imagine growing up on the Winans, going to all their concerts. They know me by name since I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Little Rodney, they would call me on stage. And then growing and listening to sneaking New Jack Swing. And then one day your favorite gospel group now works with your favorite producer. It was kind of like trippy, right? It was kind of like, is this really happening? Like, you know what I mean? It's funny you say that because I was just literally watching them perform It's Time I was just watching YouTube, like literally out and watching It's Time.
Yeah, my favorite on that album was Don't Leave Me. I just love the beats, the drums on that. And
yeah, but the remix too, though.
Yeah, Eddie. I mean, I love Eddie, but I prefer the original.
The original. Listen, you're never. I don't care who you are. You're never gonna outdo Teddy.
Yeah.
in that era, many have tried, but they've all come up short. It wasn't remix. I can't tell you any remix of any of his songs that someone else did. I actually remember listening to certain remixes and be like, why did y'all let them remix it and you put that out? That's not better than like the Bobby Brown stuff. Remember that? But I being a hip hop head too, I did like what Eddie F did with I did like some of that stuff too.
But it's just the message between the message of the song is so powerful. I mean, it's just a powerful song. And then the singing, I mean, so it was my favorite track on that album. And I wish they just released the original, because it was, I think, even as a Christian, that had such a powerful message. And I think the remix, it kind of diluted the message, and it was the song. So that was just this is my stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, you did stuff with Phase 2. Like, I love that album.
Yeah, Phase 2.
I love that album, and I remember
that was full circle.
And I remember when I was talking to some producer back in the day, and I said, this, if I was making music, this was the kind of music that I would want it for, gospel kind of music, that where it could cross through and stuff. Unfortunately, the album didn't do as well, but I loved a lot of the, Let 'Em In. I loved the Real Love, Thank You. I mean, what was? I mean, was it because you had the relationship with them for that long that they?
Carvin Winans was over the group Phase 2, and he reached out to me and was telling me about the Sons are going to be putting the group together, and we would love to get you on it. And the funny thing, I remember telling Marvin's son Coconut, he didn't believe that I knew his dad. Like, he didn't believe that. He was like, no way. I was like, yeah, man. And I called his dad in front of him, and he was just like, little Rodney. He was like blown away by that.
It was loved. I still listen to it today. It's a pity that it, as I said, it didn't do as well. I mean, probably now it would have done. But what was your thoughts about the success of it, how it came out? I mean,
yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. Like every era is different, right? It's are you going to be accepted in the era? Like, you're right. Like, sometimes you could be 3 years too early, or 3 years too late. It just depends. And with them, I think it might have been just a tad too early for what they were trying to go.
Yeah, I think just a couple of years, and I think there's also a lot of resistance within the gospel community about it's becoming too commercial, because they didn't like BB and CC. So I'm sure they thought about them, and because people will say, no, it's not really Christian and stuff. So that was a battle I was having then. So I knew that it was a good album. It was a powerful album, probably, as I said, just the timing and stuff. But then with God, everything is perfect. So,
that's right.
I spoke to, I'm very good friends with Sprague and Mucho, and Mucho was talking about, when Rodney.
Those are the Avengers, by the way. Those guys are the Avengers. Sprague and Mucho, those are Avengers, man.
Yeah, they were saying, man, when Rodney came to the studio back then, they were hoping that you were going to join in, because they would have pushed them back then. But they said, no, it's between you and your dad, it didn't work out, which in the long run is better. But they were really impressed by what you brought, and they thought having the young energy and competition would have just taken them out of their comfort zone. Like, oh man, this kid's doing this, we need to up our game. But when you came into the studio and saw all these established older guys, producers, because he was, basic black, and he had his, what was it for you? Like, were you intimidated? Were you just in awe? Or were you learning from not just Teddy, but the other guys around?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't intimidated. If anything, I was very confident in my abilities. But I was also very inspired by the guys that Teddy had around. I remember hearing, I think it was Roughneck by Light, and I think Mutual worked on that.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing it and I still to this day think that's one of the hardest mixes that came from Future Sound recording that him and Teddy did. To this day, I still listen to that beat like, gosh, that beat is just like in your face, cutting, like just crushing you. And so I had nothing but respect for those guys. Sprague to me was, a genius, you know what I mean? Because you got to remember, I was coming down when I could, right? Because I was still in school. So it would be summertime, go down there and come down. I remember when Teddy was working on the My Love remix for Mary J. Blige and I was there watching him create it. And then I was watching, some of the remixes he was doing. I was watching Sprague, working on stuff. And then Teddy finished and stuff. I was like, man, like these guys are just like the Avengers. These guys are pros, you know what I mean? And I'm just a young kid, you know what I mean? And I was like just thrilled that they liked my stuff. But for me, like that was the A-team. You know what I mean? And like, you got to work your way up to get into that 18, that 8 room. You got to work your way into that. And so for me, it was just like, I was watching like a hawk. I really was. I would sit down and I was just studying, and I was taking it all in and understanding like, yo, this is a chance for me to learn how to really make a real record, and to really to hopefully be something special in this industry. But I also, you know, at some point I also knew, like, as much as I loved being down there, and as much as I admired Teddy and the crew and everybody down there, I also knew I wanted to also be somewhat my own guy, my own leader, and build my own organization, you know, and find people like the same way Teddy had me, Pharrell. Eventually I would have people like D Mile and Harmony Samuels, and I would build my own thing like that. You know what I mean? And I kind of knew that. It's crazy. I kind of knew that at 16 years old. That was like the path for me.
I mean, at that time, you know, because Teddy started as a child prodigy. I mean, I've spoken to Jimmy Jenkins, who co-founded Uptown with Andre, and they talked about his little kid, Teddy. So he started as a kid and moved his way up. So it's, if you have it, doesn't matter how old you are, it's almost as if you know what you have, being your own independent person, you know, doors will definitely open. Well, was Pharrell around when you were coming down? Did you Neptunes?
Yeah, I saw Pharrell. I didn't see him a lot because I think at that time, you know, I probably was catching Pharrell, right? Him and Chad, I think they finally were moving into their own studio space. It was still, but I would see them still come through and play beats for Teddy.
And you guys are probably around the same age or so. What was your impression seeing? Did you see them and think they're gonna make it the same way because the sounds were different?
Yeah, because we got really, actually, me and Pharrell was cool. Like Pharrell would send me stuff. Actually, when I worked with Michael, I played Pharrell's beats for Michael. I tried to get Pharrell on Michael's album. So Pharrell sent me stuff, and the song Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake, Pharrell gave me that to play for Michael. I played it for Michael, but Michael didn't want it because I think Michael was kind of more about, you know, track-wise in that time, in that space. He was really listening for the instrumentals, not necessarily the songs at first. But I definitely played his stuff for Michael. Okay.
Yeah. Now I'll get to Invincible because, you know, I have my you know, the two people who were always, Michael was always number one, and then, you know, there's always Teddy. And when they did the Dangerous album, it was like, oh my goodness, this is gold. So, but I guess I wanted to get to I kind of lost it there, but you know, so you leave, you know, I heard a story about your dad giving, you know, the whole MP3, the whole connection with is it Jim Jones at Uptown?
Oh, James Jones.
James Jones at Uptown. So if people don't know, is that he was an A&R at Uptown. You sent him your demo, and he sort of brought you along and stuff.
Yeah.
How, as a Christian, because, you know, I know how faith even now plays a big part in your life, moving into New York and then having your faith and then having the music industry, how did you sort of separate, okay, I'm in it, but I'm not going to be...
I definitely was exposed to things that I definitely was not exposed to previously. And so I remember living with James Jones, and, you know, I was in church 5 days out the week. And then all of a sudden I'm living in Hackensack, New Jersey with James at his apartment, and I'm seeing women coming in and out of his apartment every day. It was completely different. And I was young, and it was just like, you know, it was kind of, everything was happening so fast. But they kind of, everybody that knew about me, they knew I kind of had certain standards.
Okay.
When it came to, like, you know, sessions and working with people and everything, you know, you can't tell anybody what to do, but you can have certain rules and lay those rules down in your own domain, right? In your facilities. And so that's what I would do. And people had to respect it. But I had to navigate a lot of my faith throughout my career. You know what I mean? It's always been one of those things where, you know, you're in the industry, a wicked industry, you know, it's very wicked, you know, and, but I think we've done a good job by not only just being in the industry and I guess being a light, in the industry, but also witnessing the people in the industry and praying for people in the industry and being used by God in so many people's lives, whether it was James Jones. By the way, James Jones, my dad prophesied on James Jones our first meeting and told him he was going to be a pastor. And I was kicking my dad under the desk and telling him to shut up. And James Jones laughed at my dad. And sure enough, like 5 years later, James Jones became a pastor in Atlanta.
Wow.
And then, you know, me and my father praying for Michael Jackson, you know, Whitney Houston singing at my dad's church, me praying with Mary J. Blige, and Mace getting saved through me witnessing to him. Wow. So like so many moments and so many sessions that I've literally, some people, you know, well, when the Chris Brown and Rihanna thing happened, you know, I was sent to Orlando to kind of be somewhat like a life coach to Chris. Wow. You know what I mean? And when Justin Bieber had his little moments, I was sent to go on tour with Justin to try to help him out. So like people in the industry kind of call on me because they know that character about me, which is great. You know what I mean? That's all I always say. Like the industry has somewhat become like my ministry in a sense, right? Just like, you know, without even trying, it's just like people know our character, know what we stand on. So I get those calls a lot like, hey man, so-and-so needs someone and we thought about you. Can you come pray with them or da 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 da? And I've also made it very intentional to be bold in my faith and not worry about what people think about, you know, whether they, oh, that's corny, or if they don't believe, like, I don't care. Like, it's just like, okay, this is what I stand on. This is what I believe in. You could work with me or not, but I'm just letting you know, this is what it is, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
How does that, cause I know you had when I look at a lot of credits from songs you've written, it was yourself, it's Fred, LaShawn. I mean, does it change the lyrics, context of the song, Say My Name or Boys My anything?
Totally. I mean, if you look at like, I would probably say 99.9% of the catalog, you're not really going to see songs that make you say, oh, that's filthy, that's nasty, oh, there's a bunch of cursing in that. You're just not going to get that from my catalog. You know, most of the stuff that was actually written by myself, LaShawn, Fred, my team is usually just wholesome songs with like concepts. Back then it was more so like you treated me wrong, because that was like the end thing for female empowerment back then, right? Yeah. But you don't get like just like bad songs. The only time it gets like a little sketchy is when you start working with, like, let's say rappers who you know, you can't write their lyric for them, you know, they're talking about their own personal situation or whatever. So it gets a little bit like, oh, whoa, I didn't, you know, expect it to go that route. Or, you know, I always say like the one thing that if I had any regrets, the regrets I would have is like when you do a song and you have no control over the video, and then they make a video and you're like, man, I can't even watch that. I can't even show that to my child. Yeah. You know, like, why did they have to go that route with the video? It wasn't supposed to be that, you know, they want to be super creative and now it's explicit and now it's vulgar, and that's not what that song was intended to do. Yeah. So, you know, I wish it was like I had more control over being able, like, yo, if you want me to produce the record, then I have to have final say so over the video choose to make. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish. That'll never happen, but I wish, you know.
Yeah. But then again, you know, what lasts the time is the music, is the lyrics, is the words. You know, most of, you know, nowadays everything, you know, we're watching it, we're listening as we're going. So we may forget the video, but we're listening to the music and the words. And those are the words of the prophecy. Those are what is spoken into somebody's life. So those are the big ones. What was the, you know, one of the first ones that we really saw you out in the video was with Gina. And I remember speaking with her, and she spoke about how she got signed by you, by the Rev and yourself.
Man.
Yeah, how from your point of view, how did that whole, when you were starting off was was about 96, was almost one of the first ones we seen.
I was coming out of high school, so it could have even been before that. It might not have came out to then.
Okay.
But, you got to remember, like, we were working to build up to even getting a record deal. We had to do demos first.
Yeah.
Because, like, her sister sang on my first independent rap gospel album when I was 14. Selena, her sister, sang. So her sister and her sister's husband, they used to go to a church called Brishton Tabernacle. And that was a church that my dad's church fellowship. So I used to hear about Gina. I used to hear about Gina could sing, but I never saw her sing. It was her sister. Her sister sounded like she sounded just like Tremaine Hawkins to me.
Okay.
So in the church, I used to always, like, be in church listening to singers. I'd be like, she was amazing to me, her sister. And then one day, finally, somehow, there was a group called Spirit in the South Jersey area, and his name was George. I don't know if you ever heard of the kid named Young Steph, but Young Steph's dad, George, was her uncle or cousin or something. I think he might have been her uncle. And he's the one that came to me like, yo, I want you to hear, I got somebody I want you to hear, Gina Thompson. I think it was him that first brought her, or even maybe Kenny Buckman. It was somebody in either George, I can't remember. It's one of those two though. And all I remember is when I heard Gina, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is like, it's like if I could describe it, for me, it was Shirley Murdoch and Coco mixed.
Wow.
Right? Like the inflections and the vibrato and the things that she was doing. And I was just like, man, I was new in the game, and it was more so like, yo, okay, let's go. Let's start. We had a production company. Let's sign Gina. Let's do some demos, and let's try to get her a deal. And man, we did like a few demos and took her to New York. And I don't even think we went to a bunch of record companies, to be honest. I think we might have went to like Bruce Carbone over at Mercury Records, because I had already had a deal with him on one of my rappers. We had a song, my rapper Hodge, called Head Nod, that was on the Black Panther soundtrack. And so it was just more so, hey, like Bruce, that was one of our relationships. Yo, we got this girl you can check out. And so took Gina up there, and Gina out, she could just sing. She could just flat out sing, just incredible. And next thing you know, we're in Bass Hit Studios every day making an album.
Wow.
In New York. And then, I was able to utilize Puff Daddy, Diddy, Sean Combs, Love, whatever you want to call him. He wanted to sign me as a producer to the Hitmen.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So this is before the things you do, the Bad Boy remix, any of that. He heard I was mastering Gina's album at the Hit Factory with Her Power.
Okay.
And it just so happened that he was in a room next door, and he heard me working on it through the wall, and he walked in and said, yo, what's that? And Herb was like, yo, this is Kid and his artist. So he's like, yo, I'm picking you up tomorrow. So he picked me up the next day and literally was trying to get me to sign to become one of the Hitmen with Stevie J and Chucky and everybody on that team. So what I did was utilize that relationship and was like, yo, because at that time, Puff was the remix king in New York.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I got this artist, we got this record. What if you did a remix? And he was like, I thought he was just going to shoot me down. Because, he was working with all these big artists, and she was like brand new. She didn't even have an album. We didn't have a song out yet. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm like, yo, Gina, I got Puff. And then nobody knew who Missy was. But, like you had to really be like deep in it to know like, Missy was like part of this girl group that was signed to Devontae.
Yeah,
you know what
sister,
I mean? But she stood out, right? And so next thing you know, Puff was like, yo, I'm going to put this girl Missy on it. and everything just happened. It just like was like, and it was funny because I remember like, it was funny. I go back to like when we were doing the things you do to the Bad Boy remix, right? Which was super dope. Cause I remember walking in, Puff had 3 studios, right? In the middle, the two big studios, and then he had a little small room, and the little small room in the middle is where he got all his samples from. It was just a record player and speakers. So I walked in and he was like, all right, we're gonna work on this remix for Gina. And he was like, he was playing like records that he thought was hot samples. And I was listening and I was like, nah. And then he went to play one, and then he stopped himself from playing it. I was like, no, play that one. Play that one. And then he's like, nah, I'm saving that for something else. I was like, no, play that, Puff, play it. And it was the boom, dong, dong. It was the sample, the Bob James sample or whatever, right? And that's I was like, nah, we gotta have that one, Puff. We gotta have that one. And I convinced him to give us that particular break beat. And then we went in the studio and we just started laying the keys down and getting it going. And the funny thing is, was like, Gina really, if you listen, like she really sings on every song, but then Puff wanted her to like dumb down her voice. So he was just like, I don't want to hear any vibrato. And she was a little frustrated in the beginning when she first was recording, because she was like, that's not how I sing. But Puff also, he has his genius.
Yeah.
And you respect his genius, and his genius was, you got all the riffs and you got all of that on all the records that Rodney played me, but I want you to just be simple. I want this to be the jam in the clubs where it's like, everybody can sing along. And if you listen to that hook, it's just like, he took from the original, he took half of the hook and made it repeat. Right? That's what he did. And he made her sing it very just monotone, not a lot of like vibrato at all. I think every time she tried to add vibrato, he's like, no vibrato, every single time.
Wow.
Every single time. So that's how that came about, man. And it's just like, and that was a moment. You got to understand, like, that was a moment for Gina, for myself, for the whole South Jersey, because Gina was from South Jersey too.
Yeah.
So Gina was putting South Jersey on the map. You know what I mean? We ain't never had an artist come from South Jersey like that. So, and that song was rocking the clubs and radio there, like nonstop. So, that was an incredible moment, man. I just blessed to be able to be able to discover Gina, because she's definitely, her voice was she's still just dope.
Yeah, but even for Missy too, because that was the world being introduced to her at the same time, because it was something that, her style of rap and stuff, and for all of us, like who
does that, right? Who does that? And that was that character, right? And people connected with that.
But for you, watching how Diddy, because he says he's the king of remix and stuff, but he as you mentioned, he wanted to focus on the music and the clubs. And when I spoke to Cassidy said he just, when Diddy saw the fact that he played a lot of old school stuff, he was really interested in that, because it's like sounds that people don't know. He gives us, his remixes and all his songs with stuff like, I haven't heard that song in 20, 30 years. I mean, he'll bring out the rare stuff, but really make it hot. What was it like for you as a young producer, first, being inspired by Teddy, who was creating a merging church and all that stuff together?
It was totally different, because remember, Diddy doesn't play any instruments.
Yeah.
Teddy could do everything himself. Teddy didn't need me. He didn't need Mucho. He didn't need Sprague. He didn't need Pharrell. He didn't need anyone. He could do it all himself. He only brought us on because the bandwidth grew.
Yeah.
Once the bandwidth grew, it's like you're more in demand, so you got to create a team now, right? Diddy didn't play anything, so Diddy could literally tell you, "Yo, I remember the first time I was working on something for Diddy, I did the total No One Else remix with Foxy Brown, Little Kim, and Da Brat. And I remember the first time I did that with him, I went to go lay my hands down to play the chord. And he said, "No, I only want you to use 3 fingers." And I was like, "What?" because I'm used to playing chords with he's like only 3 fingers, because in his mind, that's simplistic to him.
Wow.
Right. So even though he didn't play, he knew exactly what it was he wanted to hear. And that also taught me something. What it taught me was you don't have to be a keyboard player to be a producer. So a lot of times when I was a kid, I read the credits and I thought whoever did the keys was the producer, but that's not the case. That's why if you look at the Winans' first album was produced by Bill Maxwell. Bill Maxwell was a drummer, but he produced the Winans' first album.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I started to learn what a producer's job and role was. And so Diddy, I always tell people like, yo, Diddy can't play, I say, yeah, but all his records have the same similar sound. So he knew how to get that sound out of all the producers and that he worked with. He knew how to get that bad boy sound out of it.
Yeah. I mean, in the midst of that, what about the role of the engineer? For I've interviewed John Marie, and I know he went to work with you after he left Teddy and stuff. But what was it? Did you learn about the engineer and the mixing and because Teddy was almost him and Dave Wade, that master of mixing?
I'm telling you, listen. I was there. Teddy didn't need anybody. Teddy could mix the record himself. He only needed people because the bandwidth grew, because he was in so much demand that I would watch Teddy work on. I never forget watching him doing the My Love remix for Mary J. Blige, and at the same time he's working on a Patti LaBelle remix, All This Love, or whatever it was.
Yeah, All This Love.
Or he's working on 3 to 4 or 5 songs in the same day, right? So when it's time for him to go see his kids or go bowling or whatever it was, that's when Dave Wade or the rest of the guys would pull the other ones on and work on that. It was just a bandwidth thing, right? Because he has so much going on. But I'm telling you right now, I was there. He could do it himself. He didn't, there's always been this like debate about SWV's Right Here remix, right? And you remember you got, the whole thing is, well, All Star came up with the remix and Okay. No one ever said he didn't. But that mix is Teddy Riley. If Teddy Riley, the bottom line is, if you're a Teddy Riley connoisseur of everything that he's done, you know what his sonics sound like. And you can go back and listen to every All-Star track that he's ever done. And from a quality perspective and a sonic perspective, none of them sound like Right Here. None of them. He did matter of fact, there's an All-Star remix to anything. Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. If you listen to anything and you put anything on and put Right Here on, sonically, it's 2 different worlds. But if you put Right Here on next to the Teddy Riley I'm So Into You remix, they live in Roughneck by MC Light. They all live in the same sonic spectrum. So my argument in that whole debate is whether Teddy played the keys on it or not, or whatever, he did something. And whatever he did, it brought it to life. Yeah. Whatever he did. I don't care if it's calling Michael Jackson to get the sample clear and using that relationship. But sonically, I hear it. Sonically, from a mixed perspective. And not even being there, I know with Teddy snares, I know when he mixes the snap with the snares, and when you go down the board and you got 12 different snares playing at the same time, and that's Teddy. Nobody was doing that. Everybody was doing one snare, sample a old break beat, and they use that snare. But Teddy, he would have 6, 7 kicks, 6, 7 snares, and all these different percussion things going on, and you were like, okay, I know from a sonic thing when it's Teddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Like, we're not taking anything away from the genius of All-Star in that moment. But at the same token, you can't take anything away from the genius of Teddy Riley.
Yeah. As I said, I can't disagree with you anymore, because as I said, listening to Teddy from the stuff he did with Kumo D, the stuff he did with Big Daddy Kane, as a kid, he even mixed back to, I think, Keep On Moving with For Soul to Soul. Jane Child's I Don't Want to Fall in Love. I mean, it's he even did 2300 Jackson Street. So he's the only one who's worked with all Jacksons all at the same time. So, So he, as I said, he a genius. What did you make of Dangerous? He did about 7 tracks on Dangerous.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, so I'll tell you what I feel about Dangerous. Some of Teddy's best production from a standpoint of you can tell he was being challenged by Michael with the sonics and different things, right?
Yeah.
Arguably, Remember Tom is still probably one of my favorite, songs. I mean, him and Bernard Bell just went in on that, right?
Yeah.
I felt that they should have let Teddy just mix the whole album.
Yeah.
Because the mixes, and this is how you know the difference, the mixes of Dangerous and the mixes of Bobby Brown's, which were all done in a similar time frame, right? If you put Bobby Brown's album on right next to Michael's, you'll hear the knock is way harder. Right? So it's like, and I know what that means. That means that Michael had like his teams of mixers that he was used to working on it. But when Teddy did Bobby Brown, it's like Teddy and his squad. It's just Teddy and John Marie, whoever it was in his squad. And you hear the difference when you hear That's the Way Love, that's the way
that's the love way it goes. You can play that thing.
Yeah, two can play the game and One More Night is something in common and all. You just hear the roundness, you hear the heaviness, you hear that's Teddy.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted for Dangerous. So when I hear certain songs on Dangerous, I hear all the sounds cutting through and I hear all of that. But I'm also like, man, can you imagine if Teddy would have just been allowed to mix it himself?
Yeah,
I bet you there's demos.
Yeah.
I bet you there's demos that knock harder than the actual mixes that came out on Dangerous. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I said, it had amazing production, but the Bobby album is one of my favorite because it just had so much. I think speaking to Eric Williams from Blackstreet, he said that when MCA said, listen to this he was part of the Flex, and Low Sal Jr. said, look at the production you guys are doing, listen to the Bobby album. And they just like look at the whole production, and Teddy was in his element with that Bobby album. And I think with the Mike album, he didn't have the freedom, as you said, because as I said, I've seen the stuff with Guy and stuff.
I used to hate playing my music for Teddy. I'll tell you a little quick story. He doesn't even know this. The only person that knows this is my brother. So when I first got the opportunity to play my music for Teddy, the first time when my dad drove us to Virginia Beach, that 6-hour drive, and I got a chance to play it and to see him and Big Bub and all the people in the room went crazy, right? And that was such a moment for me. And Teddy told me, man, you can come down here anytime you want. And I would come down and I would be down there. And anytime Teddy'd be like, yo, you got something you want to play me? Whenever I play it and hear it in because he had the best sound in the world coming from the basement in Jersey. So now I'm hearing it and I was supposed to be heard. And I'm listening. I'm like, yo, I know I'm listening to my own music in the studio. I'm like, oh, this sounds incredible. And then soon as Teddy pressed play or whatever he was working on after me, oh my gosh, I'll be like, I shouldn't have played that. Like, oh my gosh, he was on such a different level. Sonically, but I would just be like, oh man, I can't ever play my music first with him. Because if he plays his music after me, he's just gonna go like this. And so it would humble me. I would tell my brother, I'd be like, yo, did you hear how it sounded? Like, we got to go back to work. Like, yo, we not there yet. Like, listen to the way his stuff sounds. And I know he had millions of dollars worth of equipment and I was working with like $500 worth of equipment, right? But it was just like, man, I can make it sound better and I can make it sound better. So that was my goal. Every time I left, my goal was to come back better. Wow. Every time go back and be like, okay, now when I play and stuff, then I would see the difference. I would see him like, oh, you've been working. Oh, you've been working. Because
Wow.
I'm tooling myself. I'm getting better because I'm listening to a master. Imagine you a basketball player and you're 14 years old and you have access to LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. That's what it was for me.
Yeah.
I had access to a master.
Yeah. I mean, he was, yeah, as I said, but for you then, were you, what comes first when you're creating music? Is it do you write like a Babyface, or was it the sound like Teddy, and then you put the lyrics on top of it?
For me, it's always been melody first.
Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, sometimes I'll start with the beats, like if there's something if it's a break beat or something that inspires me, or a certain snare kick. But I'm usually going to sit down with a piano or some type of synth patch, and I'm going to start playing chords. And and I'm going to go with chords first. Tell you what's crazy. So, all right, you know, a lot of people don't know this, right? I'm giving you like the real. I met Michael Jackson because of Teddy Riley.
Okay.
So I was at Future in Virginia Beach, and late one night, Teddy said, it wasn't late, it's probably about 6 o'clock in the evening. He said, everybody pack up. And it was 3 Quest vans out front. He said, we're going to New York. And he didn't tell anybody why. There was no reason. And he had me in the van with him. So I was in the car with him. Daryl Schuler was driving. It was me, Daryl, and Teddy. And I'm sitting in the van with him. And the whole way to New York, he's playing Michael Jackson. Off the Wall, Thriller, Dangerous. He's playing all of that. And I'm sitting in the back seat, and I'm starting to think, like, as a producer, you study who you about to work with. So I'm like, yo, is we about to go like to New York to work with Michael? So I'm like, I'm young. I'm like, you know, super young, 16, 17 years old. And I'm just like tripping. So we get to New York, check in the hotel, like 1 o'clock in the morning, we get to New York, check in the hotel. 30 minutes later, my phone rings and it's Teddy. And he said, yo, little bruh, meet me downstairs. I go downstairs and we drive over to the Hit Factory. And it's just me and Teddy and Daryl Schuler. Out of everybody that was down in Virginia that left, he chose me to go with him. I don't know why. He chose me to go with him. And there was Michael Jackson. And he told Michael Jackson, you need to work with this kid someday.
What?
So you need to work with this kid someday. And I was like, I was sitting there, you got to understand, I'm sitting there like, I'm looking at Michael and Teddy Michael. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And Michael was like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm telling you. He's like, this kid got something. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna work with you someday, Michael. And he's like, okay, kind of giggle. He's like, okay. And all I remember, like we were there and Michael was telling Teddy, I guess they were about to work on like stuff for history or whatever it was, which I don't believe any of that stuff went on there. He had some crazy stuff. I remember this one particular track that he had that was crazy. I still remember it to this day. And we left and Teddy was set up in the Hit Factory, but Teddy wasn't really focused on Michael either. He was really there focused on Blackstreet and Minivision. And I never forget, he put me in a room upstairs, this little room, and he came in the room, and this is the first time Teddy ever did this with me. I think this was the test for him to know if I had it or if I really had it or not. He came in my room, he goes, yo, so I want you to work with Minivision. And I said, oh yeah, dope. And he goes, so check it, here's the progression. And he started playing like a progression on the keys. And I was looking at it, and I said, hold on, do it one more time. And he did it, and I caught it the second time what he was doing. And he left me. And then I went to sounds that I know Teddy used because I've been around him so much. So I loaded up those sounds and I started doing it, and I worked on the track. And he came back in later on, and I pressed play, and Minivision and Chauncey and Blackstreet, all of them were there. And he was like, yo, you nailed it. And I was like, yeah, I can't wait for you to put your hands on it. He said, I'm not touching that. He said, the only thing I'm doing is mixing it. I was like, nah, you got to. He's like, nah, it's fine the way it is. Wow. And that's why I would tell people, if you listen to, when you get a chance, you probably don't even know this, but if you go, there's a song called Instant Love.
Yeah, I know. Instant love.
That's all me. And that's why I tell people I was New Jack swinging. Like if you listen, that's everything on there was me.
Oh, I thought I was Spanky. Okay.
No, that's all. Spanky wrote it, but the track is all me. And I wanted it so bad to be me and Teddy because he gave me the chords to play.
Oh.
So I thought that I was going to lay down the foundation, get it going, and then he's going to come in and he's going to, do his Teddy thing to it. And he didn't. He loved it so much. He was just like, yo, little bro, it's dope the way it is. And so that's what I'll tell people. Like, if you really look at like, after that is when I kind of transitioned out of that style. But I was New Jack swinging it. That was, Teddy giving me those chords. All of that was Teddy telling me exactly what he heard in his head.
Yeah, I think it's because we a lot of people might think that because for what he went through with Gene and stuff, to be able to set up his own stuff and to give other people opportunity, I don't think we can appreciate the foundation he's laid for everyone else and stuff. Especially in that industry, as you said, it's not an easy industry to be in and stuff like that. I mean, you'd even say about the fact that you were sitting next to the greatest entertainer in the world. Was it like shock just seeing him and actually? I mean, because you talked about it's off the wall and
but it made everything more tangible, right? Because it was like, okay, if he's vouching for me right now, which he was vouching for me a lot. In that time, he was telling a lot of people, even in New York, yo, I got this kid up here. He's only 16. Y'all better watch out for him. I'm telling you. And the reason why is because I would be in his B room, and I would be creating as fast as anybody else. So you got to remember, like in that time, Teddy could do, 8, 9, 10 tracks a day easily. And not everybody can do that. But I brought that type of energy and hunger down there as well. I could do it. It might not have been on the level of him at that time, right? But I could do it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the other producers would be like, yo, this kid is not playing around. Like, he's hungry. He's coming out here hungry. So that's how I got along with everybody, because they saw that passion and that determination. So to see Michael was one thing, like, whoa, this is tangible. Like, I'm sitting here with Michael, but I'm also being the king of New Jack Swing is telling him about me. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that. He could have just been like, yeah, pleasure to meet you, introduce him. That's all. He didn't have to say, this is the guy you need to work with in the future. He didn't have to do that, man. He didn't have to do that.
I mean, most people would.
It says a lot. It says a lot about Teddy.
Yeah, because most people would think if you do that, you're pretty much saying, because eventually you get better, then it's pretty much just taking away your own meat if you're doing that. But that's a powerful thing, that most of us wouldn't have known, because you come on the Invincible project, and
I just found footage of Teddy telling that story too a little bit. I'll send it to you. I found footage. I found he was on, I don't know if it was Breakfast Club or something. He was on Breakfast and he told the story about him introducing me to Michael. Yeah,
I mean, you come on to Invincible. I mean, okay, how did you get called on to do Invincible? Because I guess I guess for some of us, because you were, goodness, as I said, one of my favorite tracks by you is I Can Love You. I just love the dun 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 dun. Then had Little Kim's rap on it. I love Share My World's my favorite Mary album, and your production on that is just unreal. But I'll come back to those ones. But I wanted to get to Invincible. How did you get the call to actually,
I was at my mom and dad's house, and I had a dream. I was literally sleeping on that couch, and I had a dream that I was on my way to the studio, and it was all glass. And I looked, as I drove to the studio, I looked up in the glass, and it was Michael with a red shirt on. And I was going to work with Michael. And I woke up from sleep telling my mom and dad the dream. The phone rings an hour later, And at the time I had maybe like one of the biggest records out was Say My Name with Destiny's Child. And I get a call from Carol Bear Sager. And Carol Bear Sager says, Rodney, I'm a big fan of you and I love this song. And I wondered if you would be interested in writing with me and Michael Jackson. And I'm like, I was just dreaming. I was working with Michael 30 minutes ago, like literally. And I said, when? I said, when? And she goes, I don't know when yet, but I'm in LA. Where are you? I said, I'm in Jersey, but I'm going to get on a plane and come to LA and I'll just wait until you're ready. And I did. I got on a plane, went to LA, checked myself in a hotel, and I just waited until she called me back. And then she called me and she said, can you come tomorrow to my house? And the next day I was driving to her house, got through the gate. And as I went up that hill, she had this little guest house studio. And I looked and I could see coming through the window, Michael with a red shirt on, just like my dream. And I walked in there and I said, I had a dream about this whole experience. And I sat down at the piano and we were just like, he was just singing melodies and I was playing it I think he was just wanting to get to know me. And then at the end of it, he said, will you commit yourself to working with me? And I said, absolutely. He goes, you really got to dig deep if you're going to work with me. And I said, I'm with it. He goes, what do you need? And I said, I need my team with me. I need my team out here in LA. He said, okay, I'm going to have my assistant reach out and get you everything you need, the studio you need. He said, we're going to be spending the next year working on my project. And that was it. And next thing you know, we just became really good friends. Like me and Michael, we built an incredible, beyond the music, like just a friendship, just a brotherhood. And yeah, and that was it, man. Got going.
Did he remember you from the Teddy incident? Did he remember that, or did you remind him about that?
I reminded him, and he was like, "Really?" Like he almost. I don't think he really remembered that experience.
So,
and by the way, that wasn't that far apart. You got to remember, I started working with Michael when I was 21.
Yeah, because the album came out 2001. So you guys would have started around, was it 2000?
I started working with Michael in 1999 March.
Oh, goodness.
So actually, I'm sorry. My first session with him that day was in February. Because I still have the cassette tape. That was in February 1999. I wasn't even 22 yet. I was 21.
Wow.
And so you're talking about literally a 4 to 5 year span.
Yeah.
It wasn't that much, it's crazy to me how fast that happened.
What did you, because as I said, I'm a massive Michael fan. I bought the album the day it was released, and Rock My World was like, Remember the Time. But in Unbreakable and Invincible, I would have thought should have been, that's just me as a Michael fan, would have been bigger and more
Unbreakable. Unbreakable was Michael's favorite song.
Yeah.
Off the album. And Threaten. Actually, Unbreakable and Threaten was Michael's favorite song off the album. Rock My World was everybody's favorite song within the realms of the company, everybody. Like, from a song perspective, not a track and all of that, but from an actual song, beginning to end song. The plan was, before, things got sticky between him and Sony, the plan was Rock My World, Butterflies, Unbreakable, short film, Threatened, short film, and then Break of Dawn. That was the plan Michael had. I saw he showed it to me. Like that, he had it all mapped out what he was going to do. And then right after Rock My World, even before Rock My World came out, is when the Sony and Michael thing kind of just went from, it just started. It was going like that the whole project, to be honest. But it really, right before the song came out, it really just kind of just became this separation. And of course, it doesn't do any of us no good, because then we don't get to see the genius in its full entirety, right? Because all the stuff that he was telling us that he was going to do, he didn't do because it
Yeah.
happened. And I was like, he was telling me, I remember him telling me about the short film he was going to do for Unbreakable and how he was going to have Biggie, like before there was like
A hologram or something?
yeah, before that was even happening, he was going to do it. Like there wasn't even, nobody's talking about holograms like that. And then he was already talking about that.
I wish that was his first single because it's like
because naturally it should have been
the lead
Unbreakable
single.
first.
Yeah,
and then you come back with
then Rock My World because
yeah.
So
because it's more urgent. It's more impactful and urgent, like out the box. Yeah,
and then it would have surprised us that Biggie was on it, but
I agree.
The beat is just it yeah. I mean, yes, I was because as I said, I loved Rock My World just like. Because even remember the time, if it came out first, I mean, the video was great, but you needed that sort of black and white sort of to, as a pop sort of thing. But then
I don't know now because I also feel like from what we're talking about from that perspective is 100% correct if you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But because of what happened, we might not have got to Rock My World, and we might not have got to Chris Tucker and Michael Jackson and that historical moment between those two happening, right? Because it was one and done. When Rock My World came out, he didn't even have a video for Butterflies. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you think about it, like there was no video for it because they shut it all down. And so I don't know, I've learned that whatever God has. Yeah. And I don't fret about it. But I do agree with you. Like if you had to really look at it from that perspective and how go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
and yeah, totally.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the powerful stuff. I mean, then because you laid the foundation, but then were you surprised that because then I know I think one of my issues with Invincible that he probably had 3 or 4 songs or too many that probably
too many. Too many. And actually we were all kind of shocked by that because when we were making the album, he kept on saying, I'm only going to have 10 to 11 songs.
That would have been amazing.
He kept saying that the whole time. So then when other songs started popping up at the end, I'm not going to mention them, but there were songs that we know that it shouldn't have been on, and those songs as well.
Yeah.
It was just like, why is this going on here? It doesn't need to be on this.
It doesn't need to be. Yeah.
But maybe at that point in his life, he had relationships with the songwriters and producers, and he felt like it was a way. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Okay.
But I just was like, it went from being 10, 11 to like 15, 16, and it didn't have to.
Yeah. If you had cut out 4 or 5 songs, it would have just been such a solid album. I mean, I love Butterflies. Yeah. I mean, and Break of Dawn was nice, but there were some others that I just thought, and that's probably just, I mean, as a fan, I'd listened to the whole thing, but I just thought it would have been just nice and succinct and stuff. Yeah. John Marie said, he was working. He brought, it must have been interesting getting him involved with you.
Oh yeah, because like one of my things was when we first started working on Michael, I felt like I needed someone who lived that experience because I was so young and I wanted to know like someone, whether it was, I knew I couldn't have Bruce Whitney at my beck and call in the beginning, but I needed someone who lived the Michael experience. So I called John Marie, and then John Marie actually called Bernard Bell. And
wow.
And man, John Marie would tell you, we were mixing demos. We had orchestras. We had orchestra on demos. We had full orchestra and working on, I remember we were doing a song called Privacy, and we had a full orchestra on the demo. Full orchestra with a Sean Daniels singing the demo and a full orchestra.
My goodness.
Yep, and John Marie was fully mixing the demos, like full on mixed days for the demos. Unbelievable.
Was that the biggest project you've worked on? I mean, because I know you've done so much stuff with Gaga and so many other people, but being on such a big Michael project, is that one of those sort of things that you it's a benchmark for as a producer just doing, especially if you're doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tracks?
That's Michael Jackson. There's nobody big. Nobody, I don't care what anybody says, no one bigger. That's a monumental moment for sure.
Yeah. You've gone from, you do what your dad first called secular music, but you go back into doing some gospel stuff. You did Revolution with Kurt Franklin, and you stuck him. How has that been for you to be able to?
I was John Marie too. Revolution.
Okay.
John Marie mixed that. That was before Michael. John Marie mixed that. He mixed Say My Name, Destiny Child. That was before Michael. Yeah, I was working with John Marie before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as I said, just with going back and forth from gospel to was that something that you felt that you needed to at least do some gospel tracks as well, or how was it?
I didn't feel like I feel like now I do, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I needed to. It was just more so I would get those calls. Like I would, there was people who knew me, they knew my background in the industry, and Jimmy Iovine, was like, yo, we should get, Vicky Mack and Jimmy Iovine. We should get Rodney to work with Kirk Franklin. It was an idea. And we just, and then I found myself working with him or working with Phase 2 or working with Mary or working with Kiera Clark Sheard. Throughout times, I found myself even calling certain gospel artists, be like, yo, I want to work with you. Well, I don't have the budget. I'm like, I'll do it for free then.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just, it's the love of it, I guess.
Yeah.
The love for it.
I didn't realize you produced Don't Want to Be a Player. I mean, I don't think many people would know because I think when we think of your sounds, I guess your sounds aren't. So I know Teddy's track when I hear it, and it doesn't matter if I'm half asleep. If I hear it, I'll know that's Teddy. I'll know a Babyface song if I hear it. Doesn't matter. And sometimes Jimmy and Terry, but yours doesn't have. In some, I mean, you got the artist to say Darkchild, so like, oh, it's Rodney, but you mixed around. So for you to have done one of Joe's sort of big tracks, it just seemed like it went under the radar. I don't know. Did you get the credit for producing that people? Because as I said,
yeah, I mean, listen, it went. I think it was one of my first R&B charting singles. Right after the Things You Do, it was one of my first charting R&B singles. I personally never wanted to be the producer that was considered a producer because of a sound, because I felt like if you have just a sound, and to me, your time as a producer is somewhat limited, in my opinion, right? Because if you stuck in a certain era, then you'll just be looked at for that era. Yeah. So, 1990, you say Joe, right? I think I created that track in like 94. It might've came out when 96, but I want to say I wrote it and created like 94, 95, right? So let's just say Joe comes out 96.
96, yeah.
Right? But I'm working with, let's say, Sam Smith in 2015. You're talking about almost 20 years later. You know what I mean? Two different worlds. Like imagine Sam doing the Joe sound. That's just not going to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, or Deja Vu for Beyonce in 2006 sounding like 1996 Don't Want to Be a Player. Those are two different worlds.
Yeah.
And I would do that purposely. Like everybody close to me knows, like I would go into like these deep moments where it's like, okay, I got to reinvent myself. Right. Because there was periods where it was like, okay, The Boy's Mine, J-Lo, If You Have My Love, Whitney Houston Is Not Right, But It's Okay, Destiny Child, Say My Name, and He Wasn't Man Enough by Toni Braxton. All of those songs were in a similar sonic spectrum.
Yeah.
Right. And then it was like, okay, I can't do that no more. I can't do it no more. I got to go somewhere else. So then it was like, okay, I got to challenge myself to go somewhere else where people wanted me to stay there, by the way, right? The industry, the A&Rs, they want you to stay right there because that's radio. So whatever's working, they just want you to stay there. But me personally, for me, I was like, nah, I want to have longevity. I want to be someone who can do this for 30, 40 years and touch decades and decades of music. And if I stay in one particular side, it'll be over before it gets started.
Yeah.
I just knew that. And I knew that because I would study the greats before me, and I would see it like, now things are moving on and they're still doing the same thing.
Still doing this, yeah.
That's that you can't do that. So my thing was to always challenge myself every 3 to 5 years. I want to challenge myself, see if I can do something different.
And that's what Jamie Lewis, because they're still doing stuff for her.
Totally.
And you're thinking, they came out in the 80s with the SOS Band and Alexander O'Neill, but you won't know that they're still charting with stuff. So yeah, so that's that. The part that you had artists, Michael Jackson did it in Rock My World, Toni did it, Man Enough, Darkchild. What happens? Because I always remember when Bobby says, "Yo," in my prerogative, "Yo, Ted, can we take it like this?" So how did you get them to say, "Okay, I want the trademark"?
Did you hear this? Listen,
Darkchild.
That's Michael.
Oh, that's Michael. Okay.
Oh, did you hear that? That's Whitney.
Okay. What? It's like trying to get them to do a radio drop. How did you sort of convince them?
I believe, I stand by this. I believe I started the producer tag. You know how producers have the tags on all their songs now? So in like a lot of the hip hop songs, you got producers, but like, Murder Beats did, or what's the guy? What's the producer? Mike Will made it. Like you got all these producers that have, they call producer tags.
Yeah.
I believe I was the first one doing producer tags.
Yeah, because no one else was. I mean, it was,
I was doing it when I was 17. Before I had Darkchild. I used to remix records, or another Rodney Jerkins remix, y'all. They said I couldn't do it again, but I did. I used to say that. And that was my tag. I was saying on all my remixes. So I felt like I was the first one that did the producer tag.
But how did you get the artists to, I mean,
I got tired of doing it myself. And the thing about it was, that's one of the reasons. So when I was doing it on all the records, right? I was doing it on all the records. And then the artists would actually artists when they would meet me, they'd be like, Darkchild, hey, Darkchild, right? So I'd be like, oh, you sound good. You should do it. So even when I worked with her, like when I worked with her in her last album, she did. I didn't have to tell her to do it. She walked in the booth. She's like, Darkchild. They just do it now. Every artist that I work with, even to this day, I don't even have to.
So is it before it starts, they just say it and you just record it?
They just go in the booth and they just do it. They just do it.
Okay.
And it's almost like they just want to do it because they've heard so many of their artists.
Yeah.
So I'm just, all right, cool. I'm like, cool, let's go. Let's do it.
Where did the nickname come from?
It came from, it was more my production company name at the time. We were trying to find a cool name to create. And I was playing a lot of like dark minor chords at that time and built the name around that sound. And me being so youthful, so young, the child came from that. And it just stuck.
Okay, so it wasn't the fact that you left the gospel scene, do secular music. He's the dark child of the family.
Oh, please don't say that, man.
No.
I hope not. I hope that's not. Man, can you imagine? That's the first. By the way, that's the first time I heard that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I've never heard that. That's an interesting chick. I mean, I have to change my name to Light Child.
No. You are the first person to give us a J-Lo track. It was a big hit, and most of us were like, "What? She's a dancer." And then you gave us that. If you're not, what was your? I mean,
I didn't know she was a dancer. I didn't know any of that. I just knew. All I knew was I needed to. They tell me, I'm like Floyd Mayweather. They say line them up, and then I'll do the rest. So when Tommy Mottola called me, he was like, "Man, I got this artist. He actually says she's a movie star, and I need you to help crack the code on her." That's what he said. And then so I remember meeting her and I remember like sitting down with LaShawn one day, and I was just telling him that I was like, we got to approach it from a very a vulnerable place. And it just kind of spoke. Like I kind of just started playing this somewhat of like, it's almost like a guitar sound, but it's almost like a harpsichord guitar, like blend. I've kind of blended it. And then I went kind of Latin. I was doing what I do. Like I always did these like these, like I chop up arpeggios and I do these things, but I was like let me give it a little bit of just a tiny bit of Latin because that's who she was. And man, I had no idea it was going to be as big as it was. Like, you know, imagine scoring the first #1 single on J-Lo, you know, which she wasn't even J-Lo at the time. She was just Lopez. So, you know, I didn't know. But next thing you know, it was huge.
Now, I mean, the myth that we had is, you know, that's the record that's in a way sort of said if J-Lo could sing, anyone can sing, and it became the whole auto-tune stuff. And that was the stuff that went on the scene. I've seen her sing live now a lot, but back in those days, I mean, was it a case of, okay, she's very attractive, she's got a good look, but she's not vocally like Beyonce, so we need to do some magic in the studio. Here's the sound to get the vocals up. Or was it the case that, well, actually she can sing and you know?
I don't think I've ever approached it from that standpoint. I think I approached it as let's just try to make a great song. Let's just try to write a good song and, you know, let Tommy Mottola do what he do with Sony and their marketing team and all of that. But let's just make a good song as if, you know, whether it could work for her or work for whoever, let's just make a good song. I never really I don't know, maybe because I worked with other artists that got judged that way even before her. I worked with Whitney before her, you know, so, you know, I worked with different people who might not have who you don't call like, oh, they're not like Whitney Houston or Beyoncé, but they're, you know, but you know, you work with them, you know, and I've seen Teddy work with artists like that as well, and you know, give them a sound and give them, you know, some cool stuff.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I love this. I love the album. I love the song.
And then it just happens, and then it happens, and it's like, wow, this turned out bigger than what we even expected.
What would be your top 5 Darkchild productions?
Ooh, I never been asked that question. Top 5. I'm probably gonna go. Am I working backwards or starting at 1?
Five.
I'll start at 5.
Yeah, start at 5. Yeah,
I'll start at 5. If I had to play 5 right now from a production standpoint, number 5 I'm probably going to play is I'm going to play He Wasn't Man Enough.
Okay, Toni Braxton.
I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go to from a production standpoint, I'm going to go probably to Brandy. What About Us?
Okay.
Just because it was just so different at the time when it came out. 3, I'm going to go to Michael Jackson, probably Unbreakable. And then 2, I'm going to go to I Can Love You, Mary J. Blige. And then 1, I'm going to go to Say My Name, Destiny's Child.
Okay.
UK inspired, by the way.
You know, how's the UK?
Because it happened. So they didn't sing to the actual track. Like when I was in the UK, I was in the UK.
Oh.
I was in the UK working with the Spice Girls before I worked with Destiny's Child. And I went to a club one night with them, and there was a DJ playing what was called, I believe, like 2-step music. And I was so intrigued by the rhythms that I was hearing because I'd never been to UK. I never heard those rhythms. So I went up to the DJ and I asked him, could he make me a CD of a bunch of 2-step garage music? And he did. He brought it to the hotel, and I flew on a plane. My first session after I got back to the States was with Destiny's Child. And they really sang to a 2-step beat. Now, after the 2-step beat was over, that's when everybody didn't like it. No one liked it. Everybody just thought it was trash. And then fast forward to the day of the mix, John Marie. I walked in the studio and I told John Marie, I said, can you pull down the track and just leave the vocals up? And he said, why? We're mixing. I was like, everybody was right. I'm wrong. This is trash. Like, this is not good. And he goes, "You sure?" And I was like, "I'm positive. They're right. I'm wrong on this one." And I humbled myself, and I went back and I redid all of the track, the whole track over. And now it became Say My Name As You Know It Now. And it was my first Grammy. So it's like it's somewhat, this is the story of it is somewhat an emotional attachment to it because of the way it happened. But it was definitely UK inspired from the gate. It ended up not being that, by the way, right? It ended up not being a two-step, but it was inspired by that from day one.
Yeah, no, because it was very different. And yeah, it was a very different type of beat. And that's the same thing that we do say about you, is that it's not something that we can always say that you still do the same thing. You had your top 5 Darkchild productions, but what will you be? Were any of them would you be your favorites? Your the top 3 favorite songs that even if they weren't as successful, like you just felt that this was.
I'll maybe ask me that in about 10 more years, and then I'll let you. I'm still working.
Because people would think, how come he didn't say The Boy's Mind? Because that was one of your biggest sort of.
Oh, I forgot about it, man. See, you remind me. It's funny, but you said productions though. I'm just if you said song.
Yeah, your favorite songs. Yeah, your favorite.
If you said songs, that would definitely be top 3. In my opinion, The Boy's Mind might even arguably be number 1.
Yeah.
But you said production, so from a production standpoint, The Boy's Mind to me as a producer it's just okay. It was cool. It wasn't, to me, from a production standpoint, it wasn't my greatest production, but it was cool.
Yeah.
But as a song, it's a really good song.
Was it inspired by The Girl Is Mine from Thriller?
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Not in a melodic way.
Yeah, but that same argument.
But the argument between two was totally inspired by.
There was a song you did on Invincible, and I think it was Heartbreak. I can't remember which one it was.
Heartbreaker. Yeah, Heartbreaker.
That actually reminded me of a number of tracks from Bad. It almost felt like. Yeah, I mean, listened to it recently, and I thought, there was some of the track that reminded me like an amalgamation of a couple of songs from Bad. Just before we leave, one of the things that I do ask all of my guests, that if you were stuck in an elevator and you it was going to take about a couple of hours to get you out, but you could watch a movie while they're fixing the elevator, what would you want to watch?
Step Brothers.
Is that the one with
Will Ferrell? No, Will Ferrell.
Oh,
Will Ferrell. Step Brothers.
Okay.
I like to laugh.
Okay.
I like to laugh, and in the moment of being stuck in the elevator,
you
better make me laugh, because I don't want to be stuck in the elevator. So I'm going to need something to lift my spirit.
Yeah.
So Step Brothers is one of my favorite all time. I got a few different movies, but that's just one that just, when I feel like I want to laugh, I turn that on, and I'm just like, I'm instantly laughing, like it was the first 5 minutes.
Okay. And then finally, what's your all-time favorite song that you just, by any artist, just your favorite song?
That's a tough question. I think a song that has got me so many times when it comes on, just from beginning to end, is, I want to say, the Blige, How Deep Is Your Love? It's always, I'm gonna give you 2, because that one that lives in the secular space. My favorite song is a song called the Winans, actually. What's the name of the song? Drawing a blank. Not Tomorrow. Why am I drawing a blank? You listen to the Winans?
Not. I mean, its Time album was pretty much the one that I've listened to.
Oh yeah. So just from a song perspective, the song that really just has really like moved me throughout my life, like you have certain songs that if you want, you just need to feel differently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I would say the Winans had a song called Straighten My Life Out.
Okay.
And I particularly like the version of them singing it live on YouTube. You can watch it. They sing it live at a place called the Beverly in LA. And it's just a song that just like, it's one of my go-tos.
Okay. I mean, I'll check that out.
How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees is just like it's like almost a perfect song.
Yeah.
To end, beginning to end.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it's definitely been great listening to you. I mean, I can't go by and not ask you about your top 5 Teddy productions, from because as a big fan, as we both are, what would be in your top 5 sort of Teddy productions?
Top 5 would be Rum Shaker, okay, with him and Pharrell, Roughneck, Remember the Time.
Okay.
Key Sweat, Let's Make It Last, number 2. And then one would probably be, I'm gonna go young Teddy. I'm gonna go like I Like Teddy. I'm gonna go to that. It's so many, it's hard. You can't really, but I'm gonna go young. I'm gonna go to like a young I Like that vibe. And I'm forgetting so many. Like I can go to No Diggity and I can go to the obvious hits, but so many, like even his ballads. I could, like, Teddy doesn't get the credit he deserves, even for his ballads. Like we can talk about Smile, songs that weren't even singles that were just like really production.
Yeah. I mean, Piece of My Love.
Let's Chill.
Let's Chill. I mean, if you had a choice, if you're thinking about he did most of the album, so he has Keep Sweat, Make It Last Forever album, or the Bobby album, or the Blackstreet album. Out of those 3, which would you think is, what, if somebody says, give me an album of Teddy that I can listen to think, well, this is a real production, which of those 3 would you recommend being the main one?
All 3.
No, I know, but I mean, I love all 3. Yeah.
For me, man, I don't know. I just feel like I felt like when he did that Bobby album, he was in a different stride, in my opinion. It was just it was a zone. Him and his team were in just like that every song that they did on that album, was like consistent, sonically, vocally. Even Bobby sounded amazing on those songs.
Yeah, my favorite.
Everything, Kill rapping, everything was just like, if you had to have a part 2, because you got to remember following up from Prerogative and all of that, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But if you had to put like Getaway right after Paparazzi, you're like, whoa, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to go with Bobby, even though I love the other ones you mentioned, but I'm going to go with Bobby.
What can we expect from you production-wise? Because you mentioned her. I mean,
still working, man. I've been working with SZA and Ty Dolla $ign and her.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm just staying in it, focused. I'm also venturing and doing like this Christian hip hop space. I'm starting a new label in that space, and I'm really excited about. My kids love Christian hip hop, so I'm building a company with them together.
I mean, how are you managing music today? Because it's I think the labels are there.
Funny. Right now, it's kind of interesting for me because it's like all of these artists are calling me, telling me they want they want the 90s type of progressions and stuff. So it's like easy for me. I'm like, all right, cool. Like that's, I sit down and play a couple chords and they freak out. I'm like, this is so crazy. Like I was on this 25 years ago and you guys like, they think it's new.
Because didn't he know?
Me and Teddy going to do a camp together. Me and Teddy, I was just on the phone with Teddy like 2-3 weeks ago, and I was at a ride doing it. He's like, yo, he said, I want to join your writing camp. He heard about my writing camps. I did. And I say, all right, we're going to do one together. Wow. You know what I mean? Me and him, when he comes back from Africa, we'll get together and do a writing camp together.
Wow. So, I mean, are your kids going to get into it? I do see you post with your daughter.
Yeah, my kids are very into it. Very into it. My little one is going to be a producer. My 7-year-old, he's really into the production. And my 12-year-old daughter, they're both into the production side of it. And my 13-year-old's an A&R like ear. And then my 9-year-old girl, she's a violinist, pianist. So they're all into it. They all love music.
Wow.
I won't
Right.
force them into it, but if they love it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
But man, it's been an amazing chatting with you, bro. Amazing.
Yeah.
Big fan of what you guys do at halftime chat. Really am.
Oh, I appreciate it. I mean,
I try to tune in as much as I can, so I appreciate you having me.
No, goodness, I appreciate the time. As I said, as a Teddy fan, as a Michael fan, but as a massive fan of yourself. I mean, it's been, and as I said, I see your stuff on IG, and I see what you're doing, and I did see last year when you did push about your camp, and I was really excited to start to see that you're still are able to make your music. I do hope you come up with your own artists, because we, and hopefully we'll start to see you're releasing your own artists on your own label, and giving us some consistent stream of stuff from that you can do the visual, control the visual as well as the music and stuff.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, so appreciate it. It's about 11:30.
Anytime, man. I'm here whenever you need me.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. It's been great, and as I said, when you are coming up with some stuff, we'll probably check back in after your camp with Teddy. We'll just get an update on that as well.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks
so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rodney.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Halftime Chat community. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, why don't you consider being a member? That's a way of supporting the channel, but also getting a lot of videos ahead of time, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and some exclusive content that doesn't get shared. But anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks for being part of Halftime Chat.
Sweet.